morning, grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD, BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Friday, December 22nd. We'll be taking a look for GPP strategy for the Week 16 main slate. Main slate on Sunday, 9-game slate. I know tomorrow there's a 3-game slate. We have content for that. Hit that thumbs up button. First thing in the door, I'll wave my thumbs at you. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live here on the YouTube channel. Talking about Saturday's slate, I see right here, hitting the nuts. Squirrel Patrol, John Breslin. You already have stuff up for the Saturday slate. You can see here with your face over here and a little squirrel right over here. Maybe is that Dean? Is that Dean looking for the nuts? Dean's looking for the nuts. He sees the peanuts here, and he's looking for it. So you do have stuff up for the Saturday slate, but we're not going to talk necessarily about it on today's show.
Yeah, I feel like I just finished that article like a few hours ago. Just up Saturday slate. It should be actually it should be a fun Saturday slate. It's only 2 games, one after the other. We actually haven't had that kind of slate, I think, in a while. We've had like double headers where both games are at the same time. We've had like the sequential 3-game slates. I think it's our first one game followed by another game in a while. It's gonna be dominated by Bills. The Sunday slates might be dominated by some of the other high scoring teams. So we'll see.
Okay, well, Sunday, Christmas Eve. I know how you're handling it. I'm playing less lineups because I got to go up to my mother-in-law's for Christmas Eve, so I'll only be playing 5 lineups. So it's going to be split. I have to really iron out what I'm going to do. I'm going to be playing the $100 spy, $50 red zones, $33 5 max. Obviously, I throw my lineups kind of in the play action and the flea flicker. You never know what happens there. Let's take a look at this 9-game slate. The thing that I noticed from a macro standpoint is that, for the most part, the differences between many of these teams total-wise, the spreads aren't that big. It's a lot of closer games. We don't see these one team is favored by 2 touchdowns or anything like that. But I know it's a recurring theme, John. We have the Dolphins and the Cowboys. This game, I think this game this slate is going to be headlined by 3 games, but this one, the Miami Dolphins, the Cowboys one, is the most interesting one because stack-wise, you really can't get to it unless you make major concessions in your lineup. But I know, John, your style sometimes is to do what others aren't when the totals are high. So I don't get, if I run lineups, I don't get many Tua stacks. I don't get many Prescott stacks. Is this something that you'd be targeting more just because this is quite obviously the game that could have this could be the 45-38 game, and maybe it overshadows everything else on the slate?
Yeah, it's like you read my mind. We do very little preparation for this show. I couldn't have sent you my thoughts in detailed form any better. That is the first thing that I thought when I looked at this slate. This is actually one of the slates where there's the biggest difference between reading about the slate, reading about the games ahead of time, and then sitting down with projections and optimizers and stuff and running projected lineups. I thought I was going to see a ton of Cowboys and Dolphins and man, how do we get away from this one game dominating the slate? And there is a game dominating a slate. And when I run projections, it's not this game, which I found really interesting. So it tends to be more of Detroit and Minnesota that I'm getting when I run projections. So it's really interesting because I was oh, that's a little bit a sneaky game. Nobody's going to want to play Nick Mullins. But a ton of people are going to play Nick Mullins, I think. And we're not seeing ownership on CeeDee Lamb and the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert. These guys looks like they're not going to be played, which sets up a really interesting dynamic, I think, because it's the projections are based off of the median outcomes. And median outcomes, you can't find enough cheap players to afford all of these, Dallas and Miami guys that are really expensive. But that kind of gives us an opportunity, right? Because we want to play off of skilling outcomes, not really median projections. And I think that the Dallas Miami game has like the highest kind of ceiling of any game on the slate.
But then how would you play it? Because it seems like the field or the most comfortable way to build your lineups is to build with a stack from some other game and then play CeeDee Lamb as a one-off, Tyreek Hill as a one-off, Pollard as a one-off, Mostert as a one-off. Jake Ferguson is there at tight end. We have some more popular tight ends in that price range. But I'm not sure. I don't think in any circumstance you're playing like a Tua, Tyreek, CeeDee Lamb lineup. Like it's kind of to me, it's going a little too far to fit both Lamb and Hill into your lineup. But based on our projections, we actually have CeeDee Lamb projected for higher raw points than Tyreek Hill. I don't know about you, but I know Tyreek Hill is questionable. He's probably going to play. It's hard. CeeDee Lamb's great. He could go 10 for 160 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, obviously. But Tyreek Hill could play half a game and still score 40 points. And with the pricing the way it is, with more people maybe looking to play an $8,100 Justin Jefferson in the Vikings game, how much interest do you have in just playing Tua plus Tyreek? And the Dolphins have the highest implied point total. And if you played Tua Tyreek for most of the season, you're probably up. Why stop?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I don't even know how much Tua I'll get. It probably depends on the site. Okay, just because we're getting to that time of year, we're on DraftKings, you get a ton of cheap quarterbacks. Writing up the Saturday article, the quarterbacks, it's Josh Allen and 3 guys who just took over their teams within the last week or two. Jake Browning, Easton Stick, and Mason the Red-Nosed Rudolph. All playing on Saturday. They just they've been backups for most of the season. And so we're starting to get those guys on DraftKings that are super cheap. And just looking at the price, 2 is 7,800. I mean, you can drop down 2,000 and still get it a decent quarterback. You're still getting Geno Smith. Dropping down 2,500, you're getting Nick Mullins. I think a lot of people are going to do that. And you can drop even further down. I think on FanDuel, you don't get as much savings dropping down a quarterback, and the quarterback scores, you tend not to see an outlier. Sometimes the guy's going to go 4 touchdowns, 300 yards on DraftKings, get the 3-point bonus or whatever, and then if they're putting up 30, 40 points on DraftKings and FanDuel as a quarterback, that's starting to separate. But I like the idea, especially on DraftKings, of maybe playing one of the cheaper quarterbacks, but you do have to kind of hard code lock in CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill then to get them, because you're just getting a ton of Justin Jefferson if you run optimal lineups, just because the savings is so much.
Well, talking about quarterbacks that do have a ceiling that could be an outlier, I think the popular quarterback on the slate is going to be Justin Fields at 7,100 if you pay up at quarterback. So that's why I think the Prescott and Tua ownership may actually be muted this week, because Justin Fields, obviously rushing equity. The Bears have a 23.75 implied team total, one of the highest on this slate, facing the awful Arizona Cardinals defense at home. I mean, it's kind of easy to make, Justin Fields, DJ Moore, Trey McBride on the run back, or you play Cole Kmet, in the tight end spot. Justin Fields is kind of easy to stack with because they don't really do anything else other than like Moore and Kmet. I mean, can you throw in a Mooney? I guess so. But Justin Fields, his rushing upside, I know you're big on that, at the quarterback position, because they could really separate themselves. But it's also going to be, this is going to be the I think you're going to see a lot of Fields, Moore, McBride lineups. And once you start plugging in Moore at 6,900 and McBride at 5,700, that access to the CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill and Mostert and kind of guys from the Pollard, kind of guys from this Dolphins Cowboys game kind of shrivels away a bit. So I don't think you could avoid playing Justin Fields. I know you're playing 150 lineups, but is this the type of thing, John, that Fields has 40 plus upside at quarterback that you're willing to pay 2K more at quarterback for him because maybe you'll just need Fields.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll need him. So Fields gets his points, really from like the rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. So he absolutely can get there, but it feels more like the kind of thing where when Justin Fields can go berserk in any game. So like when he's not highly owned, you should be thinking about Justin Fields because if he does get that 60-yard rushing touchdown, that's going to add a ton of points. And suddenly, he's at 2% ownership. And maybe you're like multi-entering and you've got like 15% Justin Fields. And then, you've got like 7 and something times the field on a quarterback who just put up a outlier score. When he's like going to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate, I'm totally comfortable like going under the field. Just because like I don't think his chances of hitting are that much higher than they are in any other game. Like Arizona's defense is not something to shy away from, but it's not like we absolutely have to go there. The Bears have the highest implied point total on the slates. Fields has got, I guess, under 13 points 2 out of his last 3 games. Like he can kind of bust too. And so if he's going to bust at high ownership, like I'll probably be under the field on Justin Fields. No pun intended. But yeah, I just kind of like being under the field on him when he's highly owned and over the field when he's single digit ownership.
How about the other side of the game? Because you have a similar profile quarterback as Kyler Murray. Would it be fruitful to play it from the Kyler Murray side? I mean, you could play essentially the same lineup and just play Kyler Murray for 700 cheaper and at half the ownership. Is that appealing to you, or are you the type that if you're going to play this game, you might as well just play it from the Justin Fields side?
No, I think there's something to be said for maybe you take the total Justin Fields, Kyler Murray ownership, split it in half, right? Like right now we're saying like 15 and 7.5. Maybe that should just be like 11 each or 10 each. Like split that in half. Like it really is going to come down to whether you want Justin Fields or Kyler Murray is going to come down to, well, does one of them get a rushing touchdown? And that's incredibly hard to predict before the game. But the field is not showing it as hard to predict. The field is showing it as like we're all going to pile behind Justin Fields. So, and I don't know that that's like warranted. I think that you should take some of that Justin Fields ownership and just assign it to Kyler Murray. And even if the Bears win this game, if Kyler Murray is getting like 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, then he's the quarterback you probably want to have over Justin Fields.
So talking about the cheap quarterbacks, the one that's probably going to be the most popular is in this Detroit-Minnesota game. Inside in the dome, right? 47 total, 25 on the Lions side, 22 on the Vikings side. I'm expecting Ty Chandler to be one of, if not the highest owned running back. And I think that may be true regardless if Madison plays or not. I think Justin Jefferson at 8,100 will be one of, if not the highest owned wide receiver. And 5,300 Nick Mullins kind of fits in right there. Chandler can catch passes out of the backfield, so I can see you playing Mullins, Chandler, Jefferson, but you're eating a ton of ownership in the process for a 3-point home underdog. How much interest do you have in this game at that ownership? And would you be more willing to play like you're paying for Goff? It feels like you're overpaying for Goff just to be different, because I don't think Goff is that much different than the cheap quarterbacks, really. Then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown there, but you're not getting much of a discount on him, right? He's actually 100 more than Jefferson. I think the Lions could score through like multiple people. Or is this the type of thing where you play a Hawkinson or like a Addison or a Laporta? You play one of these guys that can have a ceiling as a one-off and avoid the stack altogether?
I think I'll be more likely to like stack this game or leave it alone. I mean, I guess I'll end up with some one-offs. But I do think I'm going to try to take some of the one-off like ownership that might be going to Justin Jefferson. I think you just find a way to spend up and get like Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb, who I think are going to be less owned. I think from this game, my favorite is probably Ty Chandler just because of price. And not necessarily a ton else that like separates at the running back position. Then I probably like Nick Mullins. It's just price. Like, and that's why this game is showing up everywhere. It's just cheaper. Like Justin Jefferson, you're still kind of spending up. So he has to do a lot more. Like he has to be one of the top wide receivers on the slate to like justify this kind of ownership. Yeah, I think like Chandler had a pretty consistent workload last game. So like if that continues, then he's like a bargain at like 5,600. Like you're not just not going to find much better, cheaper. Nick Mullins, kind of the same thing. But I mean, I think he's going to be higher owned than we're projecting, just because of the Justin Jefferson thing, the Ty Chandler thing. Like people are going to start setting rules that say like, give me the top, quarterback wide receiver pairing, or give me the top, quarterback with two other offensive players pairing kind of thing. And then you start trying to do a run back, you get Amon-Ra St. Brown pretty easily. I feel like this whole combination is going to be like very highly owned. So again, I think that's going to like lead to more ownership on Nick Mullins. So I'm not necessarily more inclined to like go to Jared Goff and try to like spend up at quarterback and play it that way. I'm just more inclined to like try to overstack this game, or just like take some of the one-off exposure and then just try to get like CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill instead.
For me, I would be concerned with a lineup construction that has Justin Jefferson as a one-off with a different cheap quarterback. So, for instance, if you were going to go and play some other 5K quarterback in some stack, let's say you're stacking, we'll talk about some of the cheapos, the vomit stacks. You make a vomit stack and you play Justin Jefferson. Well, I mean, to me, I would, if you're going to play Jefferson as a one-off, you play it in a lineup where you're playing Justin Fields. You're paying up at quarterback, because if Justin Jefferson gets 35 points, like how does Nick Mullins doesn't have 20 plus for 5,300? That playing a different 5K range quarterback with Justin Jefferson seems to like, you might as well just, even though the ownership may be a big difference, it's like the Justin Jefferson one-off ceiling like is going to pay off a 5K quarterback. So you get the point there? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Why am I playing CJ Beathard in a Justin Jefferson one-off lineup when I could just plug in Mullins
there? No, I think that's a really good point. That's the kind of thing that I will end up with in my lineups that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I should figure out a way to prevent that, right? Like, because that's true. Like, if you're not paying attention, well, what if like Mullins doesn't hit, and you start playing around with some of the cheaper quarterbacks? It's like, okay, and then like, who's the next? Like, who's the last like wide receiver, like most expensive like pay up I can afford? And you end up with Justin Jefferson. Like, that doesn't make sense. If Justin Jefferson hits enough to be a one-off, then that's going to bring Nick Mullins, at 5,300 or whatever, right along with him. That is a mistake that I will probably end up making, unless I like really pay attention and make sure that it doesn't happen.
Right, that's a difference between like the Tua Tyreek type of thing, because Tua's 7,800. Tyreek could get 35 plus points, and Tua could still be the 8th highest scoring quarterback from a salary perspective, because when he scores 26 points at 7,800, that isn't as valuable as 23 points at 5K, right? So that's really the difference between like why, when you have a cheap quarterback and an expensive one-off as a receiver, because it's like you don't expect Justin Jefferson to have an end-around touchdown where Mullins, isn't getting credit for the passing touchdown. If he's getting 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, like Mullins gets there, like for his price. He's 5K. He's not like 6,200, 6,500. He's so cheap that if he gets 20 points, you're gold.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was a wide receiver on last week's slate that I had this exact same thought process, and then I just saw him like running into the end zone on an end around. And I'm like, like one of those like the wide receiver sweep touchdown or whatever.
Oh yeah, Jaden Reed or Debo. Debo could get there without Brock Purdy getting there. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they give him those types of plays.
Yeah. I feel like that's unlikely to happen with Justin Jefferson. So it is. Yeah, so he's going to bring his quarterback right along with him. I think there's something to be said for maybe this slate. What you're trying to do, especially on DraftKings, is you're like paying down a quarterback, making sure you pair that quarterback with his like top wide receiver. And then you're like cycling through some of the more expensive pieces of the, Dallas and Miami game. And that's giving you like very different lineup constructions, I think, instead of like just the Nick Mullins, Detroit, Minnesota stack.
Okay, let's start talking about a little bit more off the board, because there's only 9 games. It's like That we've already talked about 3 games, so there's only 6 games left.
Yeah.
Is there a game that's maybe a little bit more off the board, a stack that's a little bit less owned, maybe cheaper, right? We're getting into kind of almost everything else on the slate is kind of a vomit stack, regardless, because like we've just basically covered all the expensive players. So what is a game that maybe you'll be a little bit more over than the field?
I'm worried that I'm gonna like take your vomit stack immediately, but I'll go. I think like if, along those lines of like trying to find like a cheaper quarterback with like a good wide receiver. This in this case maybe facing a terrible pass defense. And then trying gets you more expensive pieces from other games about like Trevor Siemian and Garrett Wilson. Like I think people are gonna have a hard time clicking on Trevor Siemian. Um, but I don't know. Like, what if he gets there? Yeah, like 4,700 on DraftKings. And again, this is like maybe more of a DraftKings strategy than a FanDuel strategy because like you don't necessarily get that much dropping down in quarterback on FanDuel. But I think, like on DraftKings, when you're getting like, what's the price difference between Simeon and like the more expensive quarterbacks is like 33,000 something. So like that gets you like to pay up from like a mid-range wide receiver to one of the more expensive wide receivers on the slate, and you're still affording like Garrett Wilson.
Right. I think if you played this, you'd go Simeon, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, and Terry McLaurin as a run back. It's the Jets defense. So like I'm not even opposed to like not even playing any commander, but coming to this reality that the Jets are favored at home by 3 with a 20.25 implied team total, and Trevor Siemian is their quarterback. So like you take a look at the team total, and I think more people will be on Breece Hall than on the stack. I don't think Breece Hall is going to be chalk, but he may be like maybe the 4th or 5th highest owned running back. And I think the Jets will be one of the top 2 or 3 defenses on the side. So I think there'll be a lot more Breece Hall plus Jets lineups than there will be Jets passing lineups. So I'm on board. It's not the vomits. It's not my number 1 vomit stack though. But you if someone were to predict what the vomit stack was, you got it. You like I think I'm going to steal it from Blender, and you didn't. But I'm on board with that also because my vomit stack, John, my top vomit stack. Can I interest you in a team that has a team total of 23.5, which is pretty damn high? 23.5 is higher than the Vikings. It's almost as high as the Bears, right? It's not that it's 1 point behind the Cowboys, and it's a team that you never trust, but they have a cheap quarterback, and they have that. If you go by talent, they got people that pair him up with. And how do you like me, John? Some Taylor Heineke stacks. And I think that you could pair him. You could even pair him with Bijan Robinson. I think you could do Heineke plus 2 of Robinson, Pitts, and London. They're facing the Colts, who typically have a pretty weak pass defense. It really just comes down to how Arthur Smith is going to play this game. Josh Downs is a good run back. Jonathan Taylor could be, depending on Moss's status. I'm not really opposed. I don't think any of these guys are really going to. I don't think Drake London's going to be owned at 5,100. I think at tight end, we got so many other tight ends. You're going to either pay down for someone like Chig, or you're going to pay up for McBride or for Njoku or one of those types of guys. That Pitts is there. Just people don't like playing the Falcons because you can't really trust them. But this is a good game environment. They have a healthy team total. Indianapolis plays at one of the highest paces in the entire league. Is there a reason for me not to play this cheap? I mean, I can fit Tyreek Hill into this type of lineup. So, like, anything where I could fit in CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill into a lineup, I got to pay attention to while still taking 4 guys from the same game.
No, I think that's great. Like, I think that's a great idea. I really like Taylor Heineke back from his like DC days. Like, he can rush the ball too. Like, he can run the ball. So like, we don't need like that crazy. That's the thing with like these cheaper guys. Like, we don't even necessarily need to find a game that's going to go off, right? Like, we don't need this game to go 60 points. We just need Taylor Heineke to run in a touchdown, maybe throw one to Drake London and one to Kyle Pitts, and suddenly all those guys are like paying off their salary. And I don't even know if you need to double stack him or like have a bring back or anything like that. You just need them to put like a few touchdowns on the board in the right place. You want to get like Algier and Cordell Patterson out of there, right? Like you're just hoping the ball doesn't go to one of those guys. Because if it does like end up more concentrated, where you're just getting like the Bijan and Taylor Heineke and Drake London, and Kyle Pitts and like some mix and match of that side of the game, then then you're getting the more expensive other games that I think are really going to be underowned, just because of price.
Okay, so do you have another game that kind of fits this for? I mean, we only got 4 games left.
Yeah. I could see maybe Seattle and Tennessee. Tennessee's got the pass funnel defense. And it's really more just becoming like a bad defense as the season goes on. And I think people
Kitchen would say otherwise. Soccer Dave would say the Titans. You got to roll with them.
I think people might be off Geno Smith, assuming it is Geno Smith. As he comes back for the game after the Drew Lock game. And so I think people are going to be off that side. Like Seattle's got a pretty decent implied point total. You've got a defense that we know is like forcing the ball through the air, at least for most of the season. So then if Tennessee comes back, I don't know, like if that's a side I would necessarily bring like a Tennessee run back. But you could play DeAndre Hopkins. It looks like I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be starting that game. I would definitely consider some Seattle stacks. You don't necessarily need a one-off, but you could go
there. Another vomit stack that it's vomit is Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco. I think Devin Singletary at 5,500 is going to be very popular. And I'm not a big fan of playing underdog, 19-point total running backs against the best defense in the NFL. But I don't mind doing that if the game goes off. So like, I think Singletary is one of these players that his median for the price is great. So like you play him in cash games, but I think his ceiling is quite limited in this spot for touchdowns. Can he catch 5 balls out of the backfield? Can he touch the ball 30 times? It may be one of those things where he touches the ball 30 times and still only scores 14 fantasy points, which for 5,500 is fine, right? But if I'm going to play him, I'd rather play him in a game where maybe the Browns actually have to play ball. And seems like they don't mind letting Flacco drop back. I mean, like it seems like this new offense we got Flacco, and I mean he dropped back over 40 times last game, and it's not like he needs to. Like it's not these types of things where they're down 2 touchdowns. And obviously he's going to be dropping back a lot. It's like, no, they've been leaning much more pass heavy. And these pieces on the Browns are fairly reasonably priced, and you know where the ball's going. Essentially, you're going to play Flacco plus one of Moore or Cooper and David Njoku at the tight end position. And then you can play Singletary in that type of lineup. And then you don't have to worry about, you don't really have to worry about 30% on Singletary ownership because everyone else in your lineup is kind of low-ish owned. And Njoku will be owned, but I think McBride will be higher owned at tight end. So that'll mute Njoku's ownership. But like, I'm not thrilled about this. I mean, these guys used to be a little bit cheaper, but especially if like Nico Collins is playing, if Stroud is back, like if the Texans could actually put up an offense, like, and Cleveland doesn't mind passing a lot more than they have been, I don't mind taking a shot on this game.
Yeah, actually, I agree. And I don't even mind like flipping it. Like you mentioned Nico Collins. I was looking up like who led the NFL in yards per catch earlier this season. I was like totally expecting to see Tyreek Hill's name there. It was Nico Collins. I think you can flip this game around because like Jerome Ford is basically the same price as Singletary, and he's going to have I think we're projecting like 1/10 the ownership on DraftKings. Maybe like 1/7 or something on FanDuel. And so like, could you play like for the price, like you could flip this and even have like a Casey Keenum, like Nico Collins, and Jerome Ford, right? Like all the same prices and positions. You're just flipping the teams. I think you could go either way. But yeah, I agree. Like Joe Flacco definitely in play. He's got like talented wide receivers. And you can play that then with Devin Singletary, or you could even have like a Joe Flacco, Jerome Ford lineup.
Another cheap quarterback. This is the toughest game for me because I'm not sure what the ownership is going to be. It's the Jacksonville Tampa Bay game. Our projections show that Baker Mayfield is going to be popular in the 6K range, and I don't know if I believe that as much. And also Rachaad White at 14% at 7,400. Rachaad White is in this like weird pricing range at running back on DraftKings, where if you play him alongside a Chandler, alongside a Singletary, it kind of prices you out. Unless you're playing like a 3K wide receiver, it prices you out of a Jefferson or any of the high-end wide receivers. So like Etienne at 6,600, I just get the sense like some of this ownership, it looks high for me. I think the Buccaneers defense will be popular at 2,600. Obviously, this is all under the guise that CJ Beathard is starting at quarterback and not Trevor Lawrence. I just saw on Twitter, he's not out of the concussion protocol, but like Calvin Ridley, Evan Engram, like if Jacksonville could actually have an offense, like we know where the ball, like Jacksonville, a lot of times stacking the pass is like, well, we got multiple, you got Kirk, you got Zay Jones, you got, all these pieces. And now it's kind of like how much work is like Parker Washington and Jamal Agnew and Tim Jones really taking up? CJ Beathard's cheap. Like, if people are going to play Mayfield at 6K, why don't I just play Beathard +2, Ridley plus Engram, play Rachaad White on the other side at lower ownership, and hope this game goes off? The problem with this is that obviously you're not getting a Tyreek or CeeDee Lamb in this type of lineup. So to me, I just feel like Jacksonville should be higher owned, and it's not showing that way in our projected ownership. And the Buccaneers should be less owned. And I don't know. I can't get a sense of this game, or maybe it's the type of game that you're not as interested in.
So this one I think is actually going to be a big difference between FanDuel and DraftKings, because on DraftKings, Rachaad White is the most expensive running back. On FanDuel, I think he's like the 6th or 7th most expensive running back. So like Rachaad White is much easier to get to on FanDuel, and that I think it's going to like affect ownership for the whole game. I don't love playing Baker Mayfield just because like he's not a quarterback that's going to get you a ton of rushing yardage. So like when he gets like priced up even just a little bit, a little bit like Jared Goff, right? Where I don't know, like there's just other. I'd just rather try to play like a rushing quarterback or a quarterback who could just go berserk. Yeah, I could probably not going to be on the Baker Mayfield side so much. I can see like a lot of Rachaad White on FanDuel, and then I can see like running it back with Jacksonville pieces. It'll be interesting to see like what shakes out. Yeah, if it's like Trevor Lawrence, or is it CJ Beathard? Like I could have some interest in the Jacksonville wide receivers as cheaper pieces here. Like Parker Washington and Jamal Agnew. Like, but we'll have to see. Like, they could end up being chalk. Like, especially if Trevor Lawrence ends up playing. Then you'd be sitting there questioning like, why am I not going to play like some 3,000-ish wide receivers that have Trevor Lawrence throwing them the ball against like the Buccaneers defense. So I could actually see this game getting higher ownership. We just kind of have to see how the injury reports. How the injury reports play out. Because I think like Jamal Agnew and Parker Washington. Parker Washington's like done pretty well since moving in. So I can see those guys getting some ownership that like is not showing up now.
Right. I mean, we have Zay Jones out in the projections. So I mean, the stuff that we see on the screen is with that in regard. Let's just talk. We've already it's a 9-game slate. There's no point in just not going to the last game. It's the lowest total on the slate. It's the Packers at the Panthers. I mean, Chuba Hubbard is getting like the volume. Do you really want to play for ceiling a 16.5-point team total Panthers running back? Bryce Young seems to not be able to complete passes to anyone. Jordan Love is at 6,500 seems like a stretch to me. We're not sure what's going on with Jaden Reed. I mean, I like some of these pieces like Dontavian Wicks, especially if Reed is out. But Aaron Jones always scares me, right? Even if Dylan is out, they'll still throw in Patrick Taylor to spell him, and he'll be out for a series at a time. Jonathan Mingo, like from a volume perspective of targets, should probably have more fantasy points, but he doesn't. The cheapness is here. Just that I don't know. This out of all the games on this slate, I almost feel more confident that the Jets put up more points on the Commanders than either of these teams scoring a ton of points. Even though the Panthers defense isn't good, I just don't trust the Packers offense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this game's got the lowest total. We got to it last for a reason. I will probably be underway. I could see if like Jaden Reed is out. I hadn't really thought about it. Like Jaden Reed is out and Christian Watson's out. Then something like Dontavian Wicks, who I presume is still pretty cheap. Like then maybe he does become appealing. I kind of agree that there's like just not much I want to be on from this game. I can't believe I won $1 million with a Bryce Young quarterback lineup earlier this season. That's going to go down like in a few years. That might be like, oh yeah, I remember Bryce Young. Yeah, I don't. I'm probably
give your money back. Don't make any more Bryce Young lineups. Always stay up. It can only go down from there.
Yeah, I don't want to give that money back to the house. Like I agree. Panthers changed coaches like a few weeks ago, and I was thinking like maybe they're just gonna like let Bryce Young air it out. Maybe there was like some coaching, and it seems to have gone the other direction where they're like, we're just trying to protect his confidence by not letting him throw the ball. And like you said, like Jonathan Mingo gets the targets, but just never seems to put up the points. Like there could be a reason for that. It could be Bryce Young. So yeah, I'm probably going to be leaving this game alone. Like unless there's injury situations that crop up, that we're maybe not expecting right now. Like assuming Jaden Reed is playing. There's not a rule that says you have to play something from every game. So probably won't be playing this one. I mean, maybe if you're doing 150 lineups and you want to do like a Jordan Love stack, or two, or even a Bryce Young stack, we don't know. Like maybe this is the game. I just probably going to have less of this game as the total would indicate.
And you're going to be on the solo ship show later today, talking it out with JM to Win.
Yep. Yeah. So solo ship. I got my stacks article. We'll get it put together at some point today. The regular expert survey, lineup HQ tags. I'm still one of the last grayed out guys there. So got to get those in. Those usually come in, right after I complete the expert survey. So gonna regular content coming out, even though it's Christmas Eve slate. But we'll get the content out today. So and then doing solo ship this afternoon. That usually gets released later tonight.
And I don't know if people realize that RotoGrinders isn't just daily fantasy sports. We also have a props and pick'em package, right? We have our experts that put in their picks, they're for underdog prize picks. We have that stuff. We have sports betting stuff. We have a pick'em tool. We have a props tool. One of the things I use the most here is the props tool. Now you could download our statistical projections if you're a premium member, which is what I do, and you can get everything, right? So you just get, here's the CSV, feel free. You compare it all you want to whatever books that you have. So even if you're not playing DFS, you could always just download that and just make 200 bets on prop bets on all your sports books and stuff like that. But if you're being a little bit more selective, we have the scores and odds prop model, which is tied to the RotoGrinders projections, which will just show you the top 20. I'll always check the timestamps for everything just to make sure you're not looking at yesterday's or some injury happened and it has to be updated. But you can see here, you have all these NFL props. It'll show you what book, has the best number based on our projections. We have like Joshua Palmer here, over 3.5 receptions, 23% edge, stuff like that. We have this for multiple sports. I use it a lot for NHL. Like yesterday, use it for NHL, made a couple $100, right? Just off the going through. Alex say you follow over 1.5 shots on DraftKings as a 6.15% edge compared to our NHL projection. So even if you're not playing NHL DFS, right? Even if you're not playing DFS, maybe the after football, a lot of people like, oh, I play NFL DFS and that's it. You don't play NBA is too much of a headache, right? Maybe MLB is too boring for you. And you're like, okay, now what do I do after NFL season? It's like, well, the thing about props is that it doesn't take that much time, right? You can just load this up in the afternoon, bang out your bets, right? I literally, John, people don't believe me, John. I literally go down like this table here. It lists all my bets. Like, people ask me, what are your NHL bets? What are your picks? These are my picks, right? You could might as well call the prop model top 20 in NHL to be Jordan's Blender's locks of the day. If that makes you feel more comfortable, because this is how I do it. So, like, I did this yesterday. I made a couple $100, right? Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. I end up with on NHL, I think I'm at a little over 8% ROI. What do I know about hockey? Nothing. I use our projections. Dane, Moneyball 16, great projections. So I just bang these out. Whenever I get NHL boosts, like yesterday, I got an NFL boost for a parlay, right? So you have to put in an SGP. They give you a 50% boost or whatever. And it's like, okay, I want to take advantage of it. What 3 things should I put together? I go to the prop model in the props and pick 'em package. And I go, what are the top 3 in this game? Put them together. I put together on Caesars $50 one yesterday. It took me what? 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Put them together. 1, 2, 3, $50 into $565 on an SGP. Just using the prop model here at RotoGrinders, which you can get separately if you don't feel like playing for premium, which gets you everything, which the DFS stuff and all the sports. We're running a sale right now. 50% off your first month. It's cheap enough as it is. I don't even know why they're running the sale. I think the price should be like 10 times the amount, but they won't. They won't do it. I say that because the more people that are betting these NHL numbers, the more likely that DraftKings isn't going to put up those numbers anymore. And I don't want that to happen. I'm making tons of money on DraftKings. So truthfully, I don't want you to buy this. I want to keep this to myself. All the people betting NHL props want to keep this to themselves, but I'm being forced by the corporate entities to promote this. 50% off your first month. And feel free to get my NHL locks of the day just on the top 20 there. Is that Devin's here smiling. Devin, come on. That's the best sales pitch, right? I think
top
I
notch.
The best sales pitch. Top notch.
It's funny. I know this is like a standard like promo read. I had no idea. This is my first time where we've had this like promo. I had no idea we had this. This is amazing. You can like download this as a CSV, open for it in Excel. I'm going to start using this. Like, you're already made a mistake.
That's what I do, John. I go to our NHL projections. We have the projections page. I mean, like, you could go more sports, NHL. Like, if you're a premium member, if you're just a props and pick them, you're just going to get this you're not going to get our stat level projections. So if you're a premium member, which gets everything, you could go down here. You go down here, DFS projections, projected ownership, and stat level projections. You go to view now, right? And here you go. Here's this table, right, with all these shots and everything, all the stuff over here, is what's in this must. So the top 20, based on the edge compared to the current lines on DraftKings, most of the best lines for NHL are going to be on DraftKings. It'll just show you right here. But there's only like 4 games. So, like, most likely, these are pretty much the only 20 bets I'm going to make. Because, I mean, some of these edges are like 1% and, like, not that much. But on a day where there's 13 games, like, dude, I'm putting in like 100, 120 because this list could go down more than 20. So I just go to here. I download the CSV. I open it up in Excel, right? I do a merge with the lines on the books, and I make that calculation that's on this page myself. So if you're a premium member, you already got this, right? You got this and more. But if you want Blender's locks of the day in NHL, all you have to do is go to the grid prop model top 20 at whatever URL here. And there you go. So you never have to ask me. Don't DM me. What are my locks of the day, right? What are the plays of the week? What are the whatever kooky thing, the guaranteed winners. You can't say that type of stuff. No, but here are all the edges here. And the more people that use this, the better the lines are going to be. So I don't want you to use this. It's too good for you to use. So please don't take advantage. Don't click on the link in the description. Don't get 50% off. because you're going to take money out of my own
Whatever
pocket.
you do, whatever you do. We'll work on getting that subtitle on the page, Blenders Locks.
Right, the top 20 prop model should be Blenders Locks, and the selling point on everything should be, please don't click on this. Blender is making too much money, and he wants to keep it.
It's just you from the Discord, the meme.
Right. Oh no, more people are. No, but Devin, we've seen that. Like the other day on Wednesday or Tuesday or something like that. Like the table got updated because the block shots props came up, and I swear, less than 5 minutes after it came up, I went to go bet the block shots, and they took all of them off the board. They literally took the whole market of all block shots off the board, and then they put up a couple like an hour later. So it's like, obviously someone got to it before I could get to it and put way too much money down. You got to be sneaky. You got to be like me. I put like $30 each, and I just want to go under the radar. Give me $30 each on all these, and let me keep on going forever, right? Instead of trying to put like $500 on these things. But that's how good our NHL projections are. I'm not saying the other ones aren't good also, but especially for NHL, I literally I will literally use this table when this show is over and just go to DraftKings. It takes me 3 minutes because I just do search for this, search for that, search for this, and go bang, 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 bang. $30 each, enter $600. There you go, done. And then I'll check for the block shots in about an hour or two when they come out, and I try to get to that before. I mean, look, Devin, haven't you seen on Twitter Andy Means complaining that DraftKings has limited him? Right? Andy ruined it for himself. We don't want to ruin it. Don't ruin it for me. Please don't.
Blender was doing it before it was cool, everybody.
Right. This is the only selling point where I'm telling people not to click on the link in the description and get 50% off.
Please, for the love of God, don't cut into my profits.
Don't cut into my profit, please. I don't want the numbers to change. I don't want them to go down. Feel free to do it. Do $5 a bet. Do $10 a bet. That's fine. That's fine with me. But don't put $500 down and get the numbers knocked off the board. Please don't do it.
Act like you've been here.
Right. Anything else, John? Any promote anything macro wise? Anything? Just
really.
Plan on winning $1 million on Christmas Eve. That's your plan.
Yeah, everybody just have a Merry Christmas. Yeah, nothing else. No UFC this weekend. No UFC till like mid January. But then Fighting Fridays will come back where we don't really talk about UFC anyway.
I got to take the screen share off the board. Too many people are probably looking, going, they're going to copy all that. No, I gotta take it
They're taking your profits.
They're programming note. No show Monday, no show Tuesday. You won't see a thumbnail. Okay, so you know that there's no show. It doesn't mean I'm dead. Okay, so a lot of people like, you don't do a show. They're like, okay, you got fired from RotoGrinders. It's never coming back. No, it's obviously it's the holidays, whatever. It's Christmas and stuff. I don't work on Christmas. I don't care. I'm Jewish. I ain't working on Christmas, right? So I won't be here Monday and Tuesday, but we'll be back Wednesday. Go check out John's articles. Go check out the Solo Ship Show later today. Talks about single entry strategy with JM to win. And hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Subscribe button if you're new here, and the notification bell to always know when we go live, where I'm usually here Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.